Hello, hello. Buenos dias, wherever you are in the world. Hello, thank you for joining me. I know it's been a minute since I've been here, but I have been busy. But I'm back today and I am joined by two women I think most of you know pretty well. And I'll go ahead and bring them in. I had planned to do a bit more of an introduction, but then I changed my mind. So here we have joining us today, the one and only Stephanie Perry and Roshida Dowe. Applause, everyone. You are watching this and you're like, those ladies look so familiar to me. Yeah, they should. They are the founders and the creators of the one, the only Exodus Summit.
We are. Hi, Adelia.
Pausing for the applause and the fanfare. Hello. I didn't even bother to introduce myself. I just figured y'all knew who I was.
They do.
It's Friday. It's early.
Oh, I'll do it. Listen, I'll do it. Friends, please meet Adelia Roshida. Adelia is a current resident of Mexico City, Mexico. She hails from the humongous state of Texas. Adelia has retired herself at a very young age. My mom cannot get over how young Adelia looks, but she still retired herself at a very young age and now helps Black women get their money together because Adelia got her FU money together and said FU to some things, to some relationships, to some countries, to some jobs. And so Adelia helps you do the exact same thing. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I wouldn't have done a better job myself, so I appreciate you. I wanted you ladies to join me today. I figured we can kind of bring our worlds together while you two host. And when I say the, I want y'all to understand that I'm capitalizing the word the, I am bolding it. This is the event for Black women and their families who want to travel, who want to move abroad, who want to take a sabbatical. There is nothing else like Exodus Summit. And so I want to kind of bring together the two things that we have in common, and that is Black women, and that is traveling and money. And so I want to talk today about some of the move abroad money myths that I have heard, and I'm pretty sure that y'all have heard in your line of work. Now, while I live in Mexico City, it is my home. You two ladies don't really call the U.S. home anymore either.
No, I live in Mexico City, even though you wouldn't think so, because Adelia and I see each other like once a quarter.
Oh,
if we're lucky.
She'd be avoiding me. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, so I've been in Mexico City for years, which is where Adelia and I actually met. I'm in San Miguel de Allende now. It's cold here.
boo.
I don't know why I had to add that in,
She's
but I
kind
did.
of on a sweater.
Girl,
It's
that
I don't know. Is
hurricane
it raining there?
It was yesterday, and it will again today.
Yeah,
we get the drops in central Mexico whenever there's a hurricane on the coast. We get the sides of it, the sides of the storm. So random and not important, but let's go.
But yes, you live in Mexico when you are actually at home, and you, even before that, you kind of didn't have a home for what, a year and a half or something?
A year of not having a home, of a year of living everywhere and anywhere, before I decided to make Mexico City my home. A year of traveling the world to see what was out there beyond the States.
That's right.
And Stephanie, you've not lived in the U.S. for
9 years, since September 21st, 2015. That's when I got on the plane. You know, COVID had me back in Delaware for a few months in there. But yeah, since September 2015, I have been bopping around the world. The last 3 years, I've spent half the year in San Jose, Costa Rica, and I'm supposed to be actively working on moving here. But you know, I have made zero progress. Yesterday I tried to order a bouquet of flowers to be delivered online, and they were like, "Give us your Costa Rican bank account number only Costa Rican bank account number." And I was like, I guess I should open up a Costa Rican bank account. It's time to be official.
Yes, I think so. I think so. So we're sharing all of that so that you understand, if you're watching this, that, you know, in our line of work, in the lives that we've been living for the last however many years, we've come across a lot of people who, I guess, I don't want this to sound like it's gonna sound, but have something to say when you say like, oh yeah, I spent half my year in Costa Rica, I'm a full-time house sitter, or oh yeah, when I'm home and I'm not globetrotting the world, I live in Mexico City. You know, about like a lot of the move abroad money myths, I think, are very much in that vibe of, oh, it must be nice that you can do this, but I can't do that thing either.
Yes.
And so I don't know if do y'all have any that immediately come to mind? Because I got a list.
So
That's a good one to start with.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that one, right? The whole must be nice thing means you have some advantage that I don't have, and I have no advantages, right? That you are uniquely positioned among all people in the world. You are the most uniquely positioned person to be able to do something, and I am the most uniquely unpositioned person to do it. I think that's a really good start. That's a really good number one myth.
And I've seen people who don't have anything special about them make the move abroad. So when I hear that, oh, well, it must be nice, like, that's great for you, but I couldn't possibly, I find it very irritating because it is not, it's just, I guess it's as hard as you make it. Because I'm not gonna say it's not hard, but it is definitely doable. And if you want to make it difficult, I guess it can be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those, aren't you lucky, but like the backhanded aren't you lucky, right? The like, it's to Stephanie's point, if I had all the advantages you had, I could do it too, but I have been held down and you have not. When it's really just about choices. I was talking to Asia, who lives in Puerto Vallarta, about it the other day, and one of the things she said was, a lot of people aren't willing to do what I was willing to do to move abroad. Like, she did not have any savings when she moved abroad. She just stopped paying her old rent, and put it towards a new rent. That was the money, right? Like, and so that's one way to think of it, is like we're all making choices, and some of your choices, some of you you're going to be bolder in some areas than someone else, and they're going to be bolder in another area than you are. And some of it is, even if you are exactly qualified in the same way, your lives are still going to look different based on the choices you make. And so, yeah, are you willing to do what it takes to move abroad? Because if you're not, it don't matter how nice it is for anybody else, right? It's just a thing.
I am not always the most delicate when I say things. So I like how Asia framed that. Like, are you willing to do the things that I was willing to do? Because my instinct is to say, well, how bad do you want it? Like, because if you want something bad enough, and then you think about that in multiple aspects of life, you can find a way to make it work. And I don't like to be the one to say it. Well, if you're saying you want to move abroad, but you can't, and it might be because you don't really want it as bad as you think you do.
I used to work with a man. I used to work with a man, and when you would say "must be nice," he'd be like, "Everybody makes choices, right? You chose to do what you chose to do. I chose to do what I chose to do."
Mm-hmm.
And what do we say? There are those who kind of in that same vein think about it as, well, you can afford to move abroad and I cannot afford to.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So the thing that Tiana just said right now, but she hears it must be nice about fitness. I be looking at these girls online like it must be nice to have flat abs, but I'm not gonna stop eating what I'm eating, right? Listen, the walking I did yesterday, I walked blocks yesterday to get a cake, right? To eat by myself.
Of course.
So it must be nice. They didn't have the cake. They didn't have the cake. But I tried to get Jules a cake. I know. I'm going back today to get. There's a cake. It's Abigail. I'm going back today to see if I can get the cake. They didn't have it yesterday, so Jules didn't get any. But yes, it must be nice to have flat abs. But I'm about to walk out of my way to go get a whole cake to sit here and eat solo. So I'm not willing to make the choices other people are willing to make. No abs.
You don't want it bad enough.
I don't want it. I want the cake. I don't want the abs. I want the cake more than I want the abs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right. It must be nice, but
yeah.
And that's the thing about being honest with yourself. If you say, I want to move abroad, I want to take a year off from work where I don't have to worry about anything. If you want it more than you want the other things, you can figure out a way to make it happen. I think about, I don't know, I was watching some video where y'all were talking and somebody was talking about Roshida being a lawyer. And I have watched enough of Rashida's videos and seen folks in the comments who are quick to say, well, of course you did X, Y, and Z. You were a lawyer. Make the assumption that you made jobs of money. Well, I don't know how much money you made as a lawyer, but they're making this assumption that you made all this money, so of course you could do it. But then there's Stephanie, Stephanie will tell everybody. Well, why don't you tell everybody, Stephanie, how it is that you took a year off of work in 2025? I mean, 2015, excuse me. Time is a construct.
Slow down.
I don't represent it.
Yeah, in 2015, I took a year off of work. My work was that I was a hospital pharmacy technician and I worked night shift and I made $22 an hour. And I sat down and did some numbers and decided on how much money I would need to be able to spend a year in a really inexpensive part of the world. And then how am I going to come up with this money? Instead of must be nice in myself to still being in the US, instead of must be nice in myself to, Roshida said the other day, how many winters, right? She counted how long she was in Ohio by how many winters. Instead of spending those 2 winters in Delaware, I got myself out and literally I made $22 an hour. And that was pretty good for a pharmacy technician. I was a veteran, so they gave me a little extra. Yeah, everything is everything, just like everything else in your life, deciding to travel full time or deciding to move abroad, it's some numbers on a piece of paper, right? It's some calculations and then some decisions, some choices about where you're going to put your money. Mm-hmm. And maybe the time is also a factor, right? How long is it going to take? For me, it took me 15 months to be able to save $14,400. Somebody else, it might take them 5 months. Somebody else, it might take her 20 months, right? But it's time, it's a calculation, it's some choices, some decisions.
Yeah. And one of the things that reminds me of is that, like, when I did my trip, I didn't save up for it in advance. I knew, like, I need to leave now, right? And what I did was look at my bank, my money I had invested, and say, how much of this am I willing to spend, right? And so it was doing the math, but doing the math backwards. Like, how much of this can I comfortably spend in a year when no new money is coming in? And then can I live off of that where I am? And I figured out If I can live off it in the US, I can live off it abroad. And that's how I did it.
Exactly. I just lost it. Where was it? Okay. So F Doctor makes a good point. If you use Stephanie's approach, she sat down and did the numbers. That is the essential step. So my previous question to the person who isn't giving the backhanded dig and is saying like, I can't afford to move abroad. Like I really want to, but I can't afford to. I think both of you give really good examples of, well, before you can even make that statement, have you done the math?
Mhm.
Have you really sat down and looked at what it will cost you to get there, to live in this place? If you haven't, I don't know that you know that you can't afford it and you can make that statement.
That's
And I
right.
really like what you said, Roshida, looked at, okay, I got this money. This money wasn't necessarily for this purpose,
Was
but
not.
this purpose and this money is here. How much of this am I willing to spend?
And for me, it was how much of this am I willing to spend to save my life? Right? I was at a point where it was like, I can't continue on how I'm going. So what if I need to do something differently, how much can I take from what I have and like make a significant change?
Yeah, I think maybe we're on to myth number 2, which is the money for move abroad has to be specifically move abroad money, right? Or the money for this period of time has to be specifically that pot of cash. Sometimes we get kind of like, what is the word? Tunnel vision, the phrase. We get tunnel vision when it comes to money. And if we set money aside for a specific thing, we forget that it's money and it's ours to use. And it doesn't know that it belongs in one kitty or another.
What is it they say? All money spend the same.
Yes.
So yes, this idea that now that I've got this idea that I want to go because I haven't put money aside for that specific purpose, therefore I have no money.
Yeah.
Because I typically am a fan of forgetting money exists. If
Yeah.
you've sat like money that I've put into retirement accounts, to me, that money does not exist. That is one of the things that I tell my client, like, act like that money is not there. So normally I am a fan of that. But it was something you said, Roshida, about taking that trip. That was to save your life. And Roshida was a guest on my podcast almost 4 years ago, because I believe y'all were getting ready to host the very first Exodus Summit. I had just moved back to Mexico City from China. And so we were talking about how you had retired early and what your process was for all of that, and of course how your sabbatical figured in. But you know, making that move, taking that time off, taking that time to travel turned out to be a thing that saved your life. And I think if we were all asked, like, what price, if somebody said, look, you're going to die and you got to pay X amount of money, I don't think for most of us, there is a price limit where you'd be like, no, I think that's too high and I won't pay that. I don't think anybody would, but it's very, like, you were in that for real. It wasn't posed to you that way, but that's the fact of the matter still remains.
Yeah. And I think I'm not going to deny that I was fortunate in some ways. One of the ways I was fortunate was I lived in Ohio, and when I lived in Ohio, I bought a really cheap house when I moved there. I had sold it. increased in value. I sold it. And I had invested in another house before I sold it. They both sold in the same week, basically. Like I bought a house for like $15,000 or something, like super cheap. Fix it up. They both sold in the same week. And I spent months in the Bay Area looking to buy a condo. I had house money from 2 houses, and I could not, like, both these houses were paid off, full houses, all the money. I could not afford a down payment on a condo in the Bay Area. And so that money was sitting in my account like, when will I be able to have my condo? When will I be able to afford something in the Bay? When will that happen? I'm working with a realtor. And that was part of the money I spent. Like, what's the point? Like, if I've reached a point where like my body is reacting negatively when I'm at work because people are driving me crazy. If I'm having stress reactions to being at work, and the place I'm renting is trying to raise my rent, what's the point of being here and causing more physical damage to myself with the goal of like buying a house? I'm still gonna be at the same job that I don't like, right? You know what I mean? Like, people often say like, oh, I'm saving this money for this. And I'm like, but like, if I was dead, what am I gonna do with the house? Right? Like, if that job killed me, which it would have if I stayed, I know it would have if I stayed there, the way my body was reacting to it. Who gonna take the house when I'm dead? Right? Like, it's just a thing. I would rather be alive and not own a home, which is where I am right now, than be dead and have a home in my name. And truly, I didn't know it at the time. I did not know that was the difference maker. I knew I was not going to make it where I was, but I didn't know that taking the break was going to be and investing that money in myself for the break was going to make that much of a difference in my life, because I didn't know what was out there. When I got out there and I thought it like, oh no, my life has completely changed. And now I don't stress about anything. My body's in a much better state. I'm in a much better emotional state. Now it's like, yeah, that was worth, I think, my year. Super last minute. I went wherever I wanted to go. I think I spent $36,000 a year. And that's, when you compare that to what it costs to live in the US, that's not a lot of money. Like, that's travel, that's rent, that's food, that's everything. And it's a high number for what I did, because I did a lot of things last minute, but it's still less than I would have paid living in the US.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So like, we think about things sometimes we think of spending money as throwing money away, but this is as much of an investment as anything else, right? Putting money towards your health, your well-being, your happiness, your joy, your peace, fun. Putting money towards fun is also an investment. It is an investment in yourself. So maybe we're like myth number 3 already, that spending money is wasteful always. When really spending money, this is an investment. Spending money to not be dead, right? Or spending money to just like enjoy your days, enjoy your life, is as much of an investment as the houses that you bought or the whatever else we invest in.
Yeah.
It pays off.
It pays off.
I mean, look at us. We are together. I think together we're 140 years old. And look at us. Don't we look good?
We might be a little older than that. Closer to like 144, 145.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right.
Look at
Ancients. That. We are the olds.
Looking all good.
Look at us.
But the idea, like, this sounds deceptively simple, but the idea, and we just wrapped up a retreat earlier this week, and this is something that came up with the participants there, this idea that you would spend money in such a way that it's centered on you, particularly as a Black woman. Like, you always supposed to put everybody first. And when you think about, if you're a Black woman with kids, a family, whatever responsibilities, the thing you get lauded for is how much you struggle, how much you suffer, how much you do with how little. And that is not to take away from anybody who is out here making $1 out of 15 cents. That is not to do that. We forget, we overlook the idea that spending money on yourself is an investment in you, and you are worth that investment. It is worth investing in your habits. If it was a friend of ours, if it was a little sister, our child, and somebody said, would you spend $36,000 so that they could be happy and be alive? Most of us would not blink at that. But if you put that question for yourself, that's where there's a hesitation. And we got to stop that.
Absolutely. Listen, those days are over. The days of self-sacrifice, the days of putting ourselves at the very, very end of the list, those days are over. We don't do that no more. No more. It's okay if you did it, because listen, that's how we were told things had to be. Right? Some people have been very sacrificial because they just thought that that was the way they were supposed to be. But listen, even if that was you, it doesn't have to be you today. You can stop.
No. There's always.
It used to be me.
Yeah.
And it's not me anymore.
You've reinvented yourself, right? So many of us don't get an opportunity to say, like, so many of us don't seize the opportunity to say, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not that person anymore. I'm not going to be in that place anymore. And it's not always an obvious opportunity, and it's not always easy to grasp. But if you can see it and grasp it, and you don't want to be that person anymore, go ahead and hold on tight, right? Because you never, like, none of us knew what the other side was going to look like. We just knew that we didn't want to be where we were. Like, this ain't it. Let's see what's over there. And it's a risk, right? And I think that's one of the things that scares people a lot, is like, well, I don't know what it's going to be. You don't know what it's going to be, but if you don't like where you are, try something new.
You already know about the life that you have. And so I think now's as good a time as any. Like, I think that's what's so great about Exodus Summit. I did not have Exodus Summit. I did have this woman who went by Vicarious on Instagram, who talked about grown up gap year. And just calling it that, because I was that person who wanted to take a gap year, but the reality of my life, like, I ain't work, I didn't eat, even at like 17, gap year wasn't for me. And so to see a Black woman talk about taking her grown-up gap year, that's what gave me the idea that I could even do that. But, like, that's way back then. But now, on 4 years in, on to the 5th Exodus Summit, I think that's what's so great about Exodus Summit is you're in a space where there are so many people out here doing things you've never, ever considered. I think back to the first summit where y'all have 11 speakers over an entire week, like 7, 8 days, multiple. It was an extravaganza, but I think about that, and even somebody who was already out here living this life, I got to hear from women who were doing things I had not even considered. And so that's what I think what Roshida said about, not knowing what the other side looked like. That if there's a woman watching this today and considering a move abroad, considering taking some time off from work, wanting to, has always had this wanderlust spirit, but never could figure out a way to make it work, you don't even have to just take that blind leap anymore. Because with Exodus Summit, you can see right in front of you people who are wanting to do the thing or have done the thing that you want to do. And so I think that to me eliminates one of the big roadblocks.
Absolutely. Listen, if it was all up to every single person individually trying to figure out some ways, we wouldn't see as the women, like the women in your chat right now, we wouldn't see them all out all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
all out or having gone and come back, right? We wouldn't see that. It's there's like progress in numbers. There's progress in people sharing what they know and answering questions and asking questions in community. It's different. If things move differently, things move more smoothly when it's not just you trying to figure stuff out on your own and quitting and giving up.
Yeah. Adelia, you have spoken at almost every Exit Summit. What are you bringing this year that you haven't brought in the past?
I think I am bringing, I think the focus this year is you want to make this happen and you want to make it happen. I think in the past, when I've talked about like figuring out your numbers and that sort of thing, it's been more of I got time to do this, you know, that sort of thing. It's more of, okay, let's make this happen. How can we get there? I was going to say the easiest way, the fastest way possible. I think my presentation will be a little different this time. Way back in 2020, I talked about solo travel specifically. So that's a little different.
That's right. Yeah, you've taken us on your journey with you, right? Because back then that was your main thing, I think. And now you're like, money. Here's a problem. Here's some solutions. Let's talk about the money. Yeah. Yeah. So can we talk?
I also figured out that I want to be able to share my travels in the way that I want to, but not in because I had these visions of being a travel blogger back then. And I no longer have those delusions. I found my lane.
Right. Same, girl. Sometimes people are like, oh, I can't wait to see Costa Rica. I'm like, girl, you're gonna have to get here because I'm not I'm not walking around here shooting video and taking photos. When I went to Ecuador just a few weeks ago, oh, I can't wait to see it. I'm like, you see it when you get here, or you'll find somebody else who does that. I don't do that.
When I first started my YouTube channel, I was in Playa del Carmen, and I was with Coach Tish was there. I was sitting on the couch making these videos, and she was like, "Girl, don't nobody want to see your talking head videos. You need to go outside and show people stuff." And I was like, "They gonna get what they get, right?" Like, and I think that's part of it. Like, she's like, everybody else is like showing things, and I was like, "Cool, I'm gonna teach things, right?" Because like we don't all have to do the same thing, and I, as someone who's done a vlog or two, know that it's just not worth the energy for me. Now the views be outstanding, right? People love watching it, but who gonna do that work? Who who is the vlog?
Not me.
No, not me. But it really, I think that comes back to your experience in everything you do gets to be your own, right? Like, yes, I may not have the same number of views I would have if I was outside, and I'm outside with my camera all the time. It's on my hard drive. My external hard drive is packed, but putting that stuff all together and packaging it, yeah, you get to live your experience, whether it's being a YouTuber, whether it's moving abroad, whether it is taking a break. Once you know you want it, the next step is to figure out how you want it. And money, of course, plays a role in that because it's hard to do stuff without money. It's not impossible, right? It's not impossible, but figuring out, to Delia's point earlier, one of the hardest points is the gap in knowledge between like how much money you think you need and how much money you actually need, how much money you think you have versus how much money you actually have. Once you can close those gaps in knowledge, And a lot of us put blinders on in our own life to things like that. Like if I don't see it, you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter. It doesn't exist. Once you take those blinders off, it's much easier to make a move. If you know, like if Stephanie needed $14,000, if you know you're $2,000 away from a year around the world, that's different than it'll never happen for me because I need $1 trillion, right? It's so much different once you do the math. So I'm excited that you're going to do math with us this time, Adelia. Live. You're doing math with us live. The pressure.
I'm laughing because I literally just said to somebody, I was like, I'm a money person, not a math person.
There'll be somebody in the audience
recorded. Yes, we're gonna be there like recording it and double checking. Adelia, I don't know about that number. No, we're excited to have you here with us because, I asked in the group what sessions people were excited about, and yours is one of the ones that keeps coming up because people know that like the money is the hard part. I want to shift gears for a second though, if possible. I want to talk about some of the like ridiculous money, some of the ridiculous things. We've said like realistic things. I want to have a little fun and talk about like the ridiculous things people say about money. Like it's always a bad saying stuff like, well, when you move abroad and the economy collapses, you're going to be stranded somewhere because the gold standard.
Okay.
Can we talk about how BRICS is forming their own currency that's going to crash the dollar? And you need to buy gold because that's going to be the only thing. Okay, I have told this story before, but I think it bears repeating. About maybe 2-3 years ago, there was a post in a Facebook group in Mexico City. This German girl, I believe, needed to leave Mexico and fly back home. There was some kind of emergency, and she had 6 half-ounce gold bars.
I remember that.
You know who don't take gold bars? Aero. So before she could get on this flight to go home, she needed somebody to buy those gold bars off her. You know who
Also,
I'm not buying gold bars from?
a German woman. Listen,
On Facebook.
listen, a German woman, a South African, especially one of them South Africans, don't come to me with your gold. Don't come to me. Don't come, please. I'm so sorry. I have questions.
Like my dad sent me to college with traveler's checks. It was 1992 and debit cards existed. He sent me to college with traveler's checks. And then I'm like, nah, I got it. This is just paper. I don't know what to do with this.
Gold it was like 2022, 2021 maybe. Now you're trying to sell gold on the internet, and now everybody knows you're walking around with these gold bricks.
I don't hear. So what's the myth? The myth is that
like
dollar.
Once you leave the US, money becomes less secure. And the other side of that is that other people's money is so secure that if you're relying on US dollars, you will be poverticious very soon.
But Adelia, investment friends, Adelia and Roshida, a person should buy gold, right? That's a thing that a person should do.
Do not buy. Okay, let me preface this by saying I am not licensed by anyone to give any kind of advice. But let this story of this woman, this story explains the inherent problem with buying physical gold. Whatever you buy, be it shoes, be it a purse, be it gold bars, is only worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. And in this moment, when she needed the money most, wasn't nobody willing to buy one of them gold bars. You'd be better suited buying a fund that invested in commodities like gold.
Got it.
Okay, that's what
I've been on the internet looking at those coins that you get for $2,000. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so my uncle left me all his coins,
Mhm.
and it's like pounds and pounds of coins, and most of them are absolutely worthless.
Because the coins are made of gold, though. The coins are made from gold.
Yes, I
So there is,
appreciate that.
there's
So that
actual
is a good
value in
distinction. But who are you
Yeah.
going to sell those? When you need $2,000, who are you going to sell those
Uh-huh.
coins to? And how much are they going to pay you for them?
Okay.
There has to be a there
Okay.
has to be a demand, or your supply doesn't matter.
And
Commodities.
if the US economy has collapsed, we got money, period, probably don't work anymore. What you want is somebody who got seeds, or
Okay.
if you're one of those people
She's gonna be
that
investing in
like to
seeds
stay
now.
around, you want seeds as currency.
Wait, Stephanie, were you the one that's saying the farmer was the answer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The farmer boyfriend is the future. Okay. Never go hungry. Farmer chef, the farmer,
Yes,
the chef, farm to table, farmer and chef duo. That's the man who you want to hook yourself with, right? So when Adelia's concerned, has been slightly concerned about the apocalypse, okay, or the zombie apocalypse.
No, not slightly. I am so unconcerned because I already know what I'm supposed to do. And I'm not supposed to be here after that point. So there are no concerns. I am not fighting to live in post-apocalyptic Earth. No. Y'all can have that. So I'm not worried about it. I'm not looking for a farmer. One of the things was reiterated for me in the last week in Oaxaca. One of our retreat guests has celiac and is a vegan. So, we have to make sure that's a fairly easy thing to do in Mexico because corn is so big. But often our meals would be vegetarian. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, if vegetarian food is like this at home, I could eat like this all the time. And I'm sitting there like, no, I don't want any part of a world like this. And after the apocalypse, that's what the world is going to be like. There will be no more cow and pork and chicken production. So what I'm going to eat? Nothing.
What did you eat during the retreat?
Cheese quesadillas.
Okay.
Without
no onions. One sweet lady, she made this, from what I heard, was delicious molotes with potato in it, but I don't like potatoes like that. So I had a lot of cheese quesadillas, and that's fine. But I'm not trying. Y'all have at it after the apocalypse.
I don't know how I feel about post-apocalyptic life. I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I like a challenge.
Here's how I feel. I think that humans underestimate their will to live. As a person who worked in a hospital, I've seen people who are DED dead fight to live. I think we underestimate our will to live. And I think, listen, I'm going with it. Okay? If we turn into zombies, I'm a zombie. Okay? I think I have a strong will to live. I think I've already seen that. And I think people underestimate how much they will do to live. Except maybe people who refuse to eat vegetables. Mm-hmm. Those people may just go, that may be that. You might be right, Adelia. But I think most of us, we underestimate our will to live. That's why I think, listen, I want to be prepared. I want to have, I think I do want to have a little bit of gold. I want to have a little something, right? I want to have, so you might be right that maybe there's nobody who's going to be able to buy the gold, but there's got to be some preparation. Because I know I'm going to want to keep living. I think I know that about me.
I think I'm in the middle. I think I'm pretty sure I want to keep living, but I don't want to do no preparations. I think I'm about, but this is very, Adelia's laughing because this is very me. I'm going to show up and see what happens. Like, oh, Can I outrun the zombies?
You gotta
We're gonna find,
bring a
like, I'm not
skill set.
jogging to practice. I'm just gonna find out. I'm not planting seeds. I'm not
You gotta
storing
bring a
gold.
skill set. This is where your proclivity with plants would come in handy.
But like, I don't have any interest in planting food. I like pretty plants. I don't want.
Well,
I don't want
don't
the
tell
food.
the people that, or they're not gonna let you into their survival circle. You
I'm
have to
light
make
fraud,
them
a
think
little
you
light
wanna grow
fraud. Y'all
food.
know me. A little bit of the I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna finesse my way into something. Somebody circle. I got a skill. Don't know what it is. We're gonna figure it out.
Okay.
No. So yeah,
All
so
right,
the
so that
myth
myth,
there was that the
money.
money is like wherever you are or whatever you're relying on is going to collapse. That's what I hear frequently from men is that the economy once you leave the US, whether you're relying on the US economy or you're relying on a foreign economy, the economy you're leaving on, Black women, once you leave, is going to collapse and you're going to be in trouble alone in that place.
Okay. I feel like if it collapses, the best place to be is a place with people who are like good people.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably not the United States, right? We're probably in better shape in Costa Rica and Mexico than we would be in Delaware and Texas and the Bay, right?
Mm-hmm.
If
100%, I think.
okay,
I think.
all right,
Mm-hmm.
that was a good myth. Okay, I think we're on to myth. I think that was number 4.
Okay. Because I was gonna say one, I think that's kind of related to the one Rashida is you're moving to that third world country, you're gonna have to downgrade your life. There's no way you're gonna be able to live a life, is as materially nice as the one that you had in the US.
And the other part of that, which I've heard directly, is if you don't downgrade, you are an outlier and you shouldn't be here anyway.
Say more about that. I don't get it.
I did some video about like the cost of living difference, and some guy showed up saying, well, everybody who moves to Mexico downgrades. So like downgrades, like the point of moving to Mexico is to downgrade your life. And so if you didn't like downgrade, then what are you even doing? And I'm like, well, my gear don't go in that direction, dog. Like, I'm so sorry. I don't know who you are and how you're living. But like, some people want that. Some people want a smaller life, a simpler life, a life with less things. But that's not the reason we all move abroad. A lot of us move for different reasons. I am not downgrading. Once I had the nice, what am I going? I personally can't go back. So the idea that like that's the reason that you move out of a country is to downgrade was just so foreign to me. I was like, I never even considered that as like conceptually close to factual. And here you go in my comments telling me that like it's the only option.
I have been out of the United States since 2015, and in this particular Airbnb that I'm in for like 6 weeks, I'm doing my own laundry and washing my own dishes, and I thought about sweeping the floor the other day, and I was like, this is really new to me, because ever since I left that country, ever since I left the United States, I've not been a person who did her own laundry, and I have not been a person who cleaned her own kitchen. I have not been a person who, I was looking at the floor. I did my hair and I was looking at the floor and I was like, this is normally when the housekeeper would come and clean this. And now I got to sweep the floor? No, indeed. That is not the life I came here to live.
In all the years I've known you, I've never known you to operate a washing machine. Like this is foreign. This is literally year 5, and this is the first time I've ever heard you say anything about washing your own clothes. Maybe in Delaware, but outside of the country.
No. Listen, yeah, I hate it. It's a thing that I love about life, having left the United States. It's the thing I love. The laundry lady, right? She knows your name, or she will talk to you. She knows I don't speak Spanish. right? She want to have a whole conversation. Every time I come around the corner to the shop, she got my stuff ready. I don't even have to keep my slip. I lose the slip every time. Or that's in other places, that was the norm. Here in Costa Rica, the housekeeper will just do the laundry in the house. A lot of times I've been in places lately where there's a washer and dryer in the house. But like, I didn't come here to have less comforts, right? I don't want to leave the United States and have fewer comforts, fewer conveniences.
I am somebody who wanted a simpler life. And really what I've discovered that translates to is like, I didn't want to be part of the whole like capitalist machine as much as I had to be in the US. Can't escape it, but I don't want to be in it like I was before. But I think a part, Kyoka said it in the comments, that if anything, moving abroad can open up access to luxuries that you didn't have before. Like before we came back from Oaxaca, our house cleaner came because she was like, I know y'all are gonna want to come home to a clean house. That was not the life I was leading in the US. But people who make this comment about like, oh, you're moving to that poor country, you're downgrading your life, they wouldn't say that about a country in Europe. They tend to have these generalizations about brown countries, that brown and black countries, everybody there is poor. And as somebody who has lived in Mexico for years, I can tell you that no matter how many US dollars you got, there's a Mexican who has infinitely more than you do. Everybody got money, but the people who got money, they got a lot. And so this idea that those people in their country, like that luxuries don't exist, no, those people want those things.
And I think the weird thing about Mexico for me is that I'm much more likely to be obviously in relationship to people who are like quadrillionaires than I am in the US, right? Like I'm in closer proximity to people where I'm like, you got bags of gold in the back. Where in the US, like I wouldn't be in their space. Here, I'm like, what's going on? Why are you driving a Maserati through my neighborhood? I do not have a Maserati neighborhood. What are you?
The real millionaire next door.
But listen, the man driving the Maserati had a baby on his lap. Going through like the not nice side of my neighborhood. There's a side of my neighborhood that's nice, there's a side that's not nice. Never seen the car before, so he don't live over there. Going through the not nice side of my neighborhood with the baby on his lap and texting at the same time. And I was like, you know what? I have so many questions, but none are truly relevant to what we're talking about today. I said, you get it how you live it. Do that. Yeah, people are just,
I think sometimes it's
around. Go ahead.
Sometimes I think it's probably good that so many American people underestimate what's in other places so they can just stay where you are. Stay where you are. Stay in the United States.
It's not for
because
everybody.
They have no clue what these other places are like. They have no clue how amazing these places are. And so, stay. The people who are like, oh, third world, if you're going to use the term third world country to begin with, you probably should stay where you are.
Stay in America. Stay in America. It's like the people who are like, Chicago's nothing but crime. Don't go in the summertime. Don't go eat the food. It's fine, right? Like,
you don't deserve Chicago.
It's fine. You don't have to go. But yeah, so many of us like Abba, like our life is an upgrade. I know I saw Kyoko's comment about downgrade sounding elitist, and it does. And when he said it, it felt very much like I'm here amongst the poors. But a lot of the upgrades we're talking about are the stuff that Stephanie talked about, like things that make your life easier because people are used to being in communities that make their life easier, or they have built communities around simpler, easier lives, right? Almost in my part of town, almost every apartment has a place for your cleaning lady to live, right? Because historically, that's what happened. Like it's easy. Housing is challenging here. So good that they have a place. I'm not going to talk about pay rates because that's not what we're talking about today. But housing is challenging. So the fact that they have a place to live is nice because they're not living with their mama no more, right? And your person's always here. Now, what that actually looks like in the real life when people are using it, I don't know. But it's a lot of the things are built around having conveniences that we wouldn't even think about in the US.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. All right, so that downgrade, that idea that you have to downgrade, I think we're on number 5. That was our myth number 5 we're in the outrageous category.
Ooh,
another, can I throw in an outrageous?
Yes, please.
That you can live, oh my gosh, there's so many places in the world you can live on $200 a month and you can live like a queen. Listen, everything taken care of. You is it $200 a month? That's about it. That's about all you need.
I hate that so much. I hate it so much. I hate y'all. If you go in a Facebook group and people are like, what does it cost to live there? And anyone says anything under like, no matter where in the world it is, if it's under $800, ask them real questions about how they're living.
Yeah.
Not that people aren't living good lives under 800, but you need to know what they consider well. Because a lot of times the way they live in ain't the way you want to live.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have windows? Do they have people? Okay, that's kind of our joke about Mexico City. People are always, back in the day, they were always like,
I say people think you're joking.
no,
but
no, I'm not.
That is a valid question.
Like people used to always be like, oh, you can get an apartment here for $100. Do the roof close in all the way? Like, or are you living on a roof of like a 15 floor? I saw an apartment the other day that was it was over $2,000 a month. It was like the 4th floor with no elevator.
Mm.
The prices you're seeing, like you have to understand that the super, super cheap prices probably don't have the amenities that you, as someone who's lived in the US, want. And as someone who's lived without running water, I'm gonna tell you, it ain't no joke, right? It's not like if you have never lived that life where you have to use a little potty at nighttime because the toilet is outside and it is just a hole in the ground that someone built up a nice thing around, you don't want that life. You don't want it. If they say they're anywhere in the world, if they say their cost of living is under $800 a month, ask more questions. Okay, wait, Stephanie, what number would you and Adelia say for if it's under this, ask some more questions?
Around the world, there are places where $800 makes sense. Cambodia, you can live a nice life in Cambodia.
Yes.
So I think that number sounds fine. For Mexico, it's not $800.
I mean, some places out where they've never seen a foreigner before.
Okay.
Probably. But they don't have a stoplight. You got to ride a horse where you're going to go. You like, there's nowhere to rent because everybody who is from this town is still here in their houses.
They already live there.
Right?
Yeah. Here, you can get a $400 house. You can get a house for $400 a month.
I think 800.
Sorry, I'm done.
I missed the last of what you said, Steph. You said you can get a $400.
Here, you can get a $400 per month house. You can get 2 or 3 bedrooms for $400 a month, but there's no kitchen. Like I don't mean no appliances. I mean no countertops, no cabinets. You have to install a full kitchen if you want to be able to use it. Right? So
I think $800 is probably the minimum. But speaking of apartments, I saw apartments listed about 4,000 pesos. So what's that? About $250. And there wasn't sinking, nothing else.
Was there a
But
toilet?
like Roshida said, you need to ask questions. I would go further because Roxanne Munson, who has been on this channel multiple times, she's been on Rashida's channel. She always talks about, because she's been abroad more than a decade, 3 different countries, Japan, Panama, Mexico. She always talks about, you need to find somebody living the life that you will be living, and you need to ask them some specific questions. So this idea that, oh, it's so cheap and that $200 social security check is going to be enough. I mean, technically, there are people who are living on less money. I suspect you probably don't want to live in the way that those people don't know you. I might be wrong. So you definitely, you want to ask them questions. I would say for the lifestyle it is that you see yourself living abroad, you need to, being in those groups, find somebody else, like you want kids to international school, you need to find a mom online who is doing that. So you can find out the intricacies, the costs of those, is their job picking up those costs? They having to write out that check or that transferencia to pay for those international school fees.
I have a friend who used to live in San Miguel de Allende, where I am now, and she was back there in, I want to say 2019. And I think her rent was $200 a month. You know who she lived with? Roaches. You know what I mean? Like, it's all what you get. She ain't last long, but those were her roommates, were roaches. It's there. And that's not to say that like every place you move abroad is going to be gross or under a standard or under your standard. It just means that like if you're trying to pay bottom dollar, you're going to get bottom dollar around the world. Around the world, if you are trying to pay bottom dollar, and that doesn't mean also that you should pay more than locals are paying. It just means that like the idea that a lot of Americans have, that everywhere else in the world is substandard and therefore cost less, is going to get you messed up in places. Now you in a substandard place, paying less. Okay.
Or paying more. Substandard and paying more. If you have no idea how to figure out what the cost of living in a place might be, right? If you have no idea how to figure out from one direction or the other, either here's how much money I have and where could I go, or here's where I want to go, how do I figure out how much it might cost? You should be attending Exodus Summit 2024. Adelia's session, I think, is going to be on calculating that number, right? How do you figure out the number so that you can do some navigating? Maybe it means a different city or a different part of the city. Maybe it means something else. How do you even know how to come up with the number? You should be registering for Exodus Summit 2024, which is online October 11th through 14th for Black women. Adelia's link is here. Use her link, please, to register for the summit. Use Adelia's link. And then come with your notebook, come with your pen, come with your phone or your calculator, which you absconded from work, and come with some quiet space and time.
I will say, y'all, that bit.ly link capitalization does count. So if you're buying a ticket to Exodus Summit and you want me to get credit for that, it's not going to charge you anything. You want to use a capital E and a capital S when you put in your bit.ly link.
Yes. treat it like a thank you, right? Like this is a way to give Adelia some extra cash without it costing you any extra to come to the summit. Roshida and I, one thing that Roshida makes sure that we do is make sure that we pay, the money goes out, right? Make sure that the money goes out. So this is a way that you can make sure that Adelia, since Adelia has made this space for you, has done so many amazing, this is a way that you can make sure that she gets a little extra dough.
Yeah, I don't really know how to make the money come in, but I know how to make the money go out. We do that. We do that.
What is money?
What is money?
All right, so we got a good list of myths. It must be nice, right? That you're better positioned than I am to move abroad.
We've discussed that before. Money isn't real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the I have no money myth, because the money that I set aside for something, I'm not thinking about using it, right? The I have no money myth, the spending money on myself is wasteful myth.
Mm-hmm.
That's a myth. Money abroad is money is insecure. I still don't really understand that one, but maybe it's not for me to understand that money is unstable when you go to another country.
It's crazy.
Oh, is that what? Like,
no, it's because it's crazy.
Think that those people.
It's a scare tactic. It's one of those scare tactics. It's people. You know how people are like, if you move abroad, you're going to be alone forever. It's the money version of that.
Yeah. Okay. It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't have to make sense.
All right. No. And then the myth that you have to downgrade your life to move abroad. And then number 6 myth was that you can live like a queen on $200 a month because I watched a video. This was a couple years ago now. And what she did was she looked at the Venezuelan, I don't know what the money is, the currency in Venezuela was, but let's call it the Venezuelan dollar. And she was like, 20,000 Venezuelan dollars it might have been 2 million. I don't know. It was like a lot. Let's say 100,000 Venezuelan dollars is $1 US. So if you go to Venezuela with $100, you're a multimillionaire.
So I first of all, never let Venezuela be your measuring stick. The other day I had to message Adelia and be like, I don't understand Venezuela. I don't get it. Like something happened. I was looking at something and something about Venezuela came up and I was like, I just don't fundamentally, I don't get it. Don't let Venezuela be your measuring stick for anything. But even the other day, someone said they like Panama more than they prefer Panama to Mexico because you get more pesos for your, or was it it was either the Dominican or Panama, one of them. You get more pesos for your dollar in that country than you're in Mexico. And I'm like, don't things cost more pesos than they do? Like, that's not how you determine which country is best, right? Because like, it's not like every country is charging the same amount of things for the goods and the services along the way. Like, it's all relative. I think I get 60 pesos to 1 and y'all only get 20 to 1. And I'm like, your math is a little.
Exchange rate. Independent of cost of living. They're not the same thing. They are separate things. I would say there are, I don't know if this qualifies fully as a myth, but there is this idea that this is the exchange rate and this the exchange rate is going to keep being.
True.
If you
a word. A traumatic word. So Dr. Wren corrected me that they use US dollars in Panama. Thank you. I forgot about that. So I think it was the Dominican Republic that someone was talking about. But the exchange rate, Adelia and I have lived in a place where our rents have close to doubled of what we're in the US dollar side because of the change in the exchange rate over time. And knowing that the amount, like, my rent might cost $1,000 one day and $1,800, a year later without it going up, or 6 months later is insane. But it's also something that you need to be prepared for. Because when my landlord was like, I want to raise the rent, I was like, look at how much more I'm paying because of the exchange rate. Miss Ma'am was like, what that got to do with me? She was like, but I need my money. So I said, it's like, it's untenable for me to keep paying this much more. And she was like, that's cool, but the exchange rate is your problem. Me getting more money, more like money in the rate, in the rent, in the money I'm actually charging you, that's my problem. I said, oh, well, every year I'm like, look how much more I'm paying. She's like, I don't care. I did not do that to you. Good luck. Okay.
She said, what's the dollar got to do with me?
What?
Yes.
I sent her a screenshot where you could see like what I've paid every time and how much I'm paying in US dollars. And she was like, that's cool, but the rent is going up. And literally like close to doubled what I was paying.
So
Maybe
that,
like
but that the dollar
5%.
recovered some lately?
It
Is the
has
dollar
recovered
recovering in
some.
Mexico?
It has, but we're always like, what's it gonna do next? It recovered for a while because of some political shenanigans, and we just don't know what's gonna happen next. What were you gonna say, Adelia?
The idea that it is going to be stable, like that's the thing. It can change, and people in Mexico got very complacent because it had been as beneficial for those who had dollars. Long, a lot of folks kind of felt entitled to getting 20 pesos, 21 pesos to the dollar. And there was a point there, 15. If you were going to a in-person cash exchange place, you might have been getting 14 or 13. Folks had their feelings hurt because they were like, well, they need my money, my dollars. Things still cost what they cost in pesos.
Can we make that the next myth? They need my money.
Oh, okay. We're on number 8. Okay.
They need.
Number 7 was that the important. Yeah, number 8, they need my money.
They need my
the
money.
country.
But they should be grateful. They should. Yes, the country needs my tourist dollars. They need my US dollars if I'm living here. They should be grateful that I'm here spending money. They should be. And what I get a lot from people who are considering immigrating, and specifically to Mexico, is that why are there any hurdles that I have to bypass to get in? They should instead be grateful that I'm thinking of coming down with my dollars. When the hurdle is just proving how many dollars you actually have. So if you have all the dollars, we should be grateful for, but it should be smooth sailing for you, right? Like, yeah.
Folks hearing Roshida say this might think she's being hyperbolic, but I kid you not. These are things we hear people say out loud with their chest weekly, if not daily.
Yes. Yes. Or the other thing is like Mexico, to meet financial solvency requirements, to say that like, I have enough money to move here and I'm never going to be a burden on your society. There's a money requirement. And I have never, Americans and Canadians, some of them get so offended by the fact that like there's a standard they have to meet, because in their mind, they're rich compared to all Mexicans. So if like the Mexicans don't have this amount of money, why should I need to have this amount of money to be there? And it's like, what country treats foreigners the same way they treat their native people? What country does that? No one. No country does that. But also, like, if you're so rich, if you're so well off that you're going to, like, they should be so grateful. Fill out the paperwork, dog. Like, what are you complaining about? Do the thing. But yes, all the time. They should want me here. They should be making it easier for me to come because I'm coming with dollars. Not as valuable as you think, huh? Okay. All right.
one walk through Mexico City and you can see that there's money there. Now in Costa Rica, the money is more hidden. But one, like all you have to do is like open your eyes. You can see that there is big money there. So I don't understand. I don't really understand that. In Costa Rica, there's money here, but it's more hidden. And yeah, it's like, yeah, it's there's no mall. The nicest mall here does not hold a candle to an everyday mall in Mexico. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't really understand that that mindset. Why people would be so convinced that your $2,000 a month that you bring in or whatever is going to impact Mexico's bottom line in any way.
And the people who say that are the people who should not move here, because you're gonna be mad that like the sweet potato cart whistle is blowing at any time of the day because it's loud. But guess what? Somebody downstairs eating a fresh sweet potato, yummy and delicious, right? Like, yes, but like a lot of times we see people who don't acclimate well to being in a foreign country.
Yeah.
And I think that before you move, there are signs that it's not going to be for you. Like, and one of those is, why do I have to put effort in to get into that country? They should want me to begin with. They should want, for whatever reason you think they should want you. If the idea that like you can't just, Mexicans cross the border all the time, so why can't we just, without doing anything, so why can't we just come in? If that's the attitude, it's probably not the country for you. It's probably not. Yeah, there's always there are always those people, and it's weird to see. But yes, they are us too. I saw your comment, Our Black Utopia, that it can't be Black folks. It absolutely can.
It to be the Black folks. And that makes it even more egregious, but they say it with the same gusto as the others.
So okay, yeah. One day I would like to talk about how do we decide? How do we like? Are there ways that we can? You can't really vet people who watch your videos, but how do we like? What can we say in our videos to be more clear? Like, this is not for you. This is not you're not going to make it. I think that question, that myth number 8 is probably a good thing to put on that list. If you think really they should be grateful to have your dollars and it's going to be so impactful when you move there, and they shouldn't have you go through all these hoops to get there, that's a very good sign that this is not for you. Now, most of these other myths, the I have no money, right, or spending on myself is wasteful and not an investment, those are absolutely not disqualifiers. You can change your mind about those, right? You can change your mind. Decide that spending money on yourself actually is an investment, and decide that the money you put aside for for retirement could also be money that you use for some time abroad. Those things you can change, but some of this stuff on the more egregious things on the list probably are disqualifiers. And so if you're watching this video and you came in with those myths, believing those myths, right? Maybe just stay home. Stay where you are.
Yeah. If you think that when you move abroad, it's going to be easy because everyone's going to cater to you because you're bringing in the dollars. When we say life is easier, we don't mean that it's not challenging. The gas company, every month the gas company changes how I need to pay them. And every month they don't tell me. So I need to figure it out. They got a new website. It's a new sign in. You can't every 2 months. I pay the bill every 2 months. Every 2 months, it's a new way to do it. How? And I got like a 3-day window to do it in. Okay, girl. Like, all right. Who's going? Like, there's no one to cater to me for that. I will
tell you, you're paying less for gas than I am now, because you are with that large company.
Okay.
I now get bills for gas monthly. And yes, and I am paying monthly what I used to pay every 2 months.
And what you gonna do about
It's a
it?
small,
Nothing.
literally, the guy's name is on the bill, and I have to go to
No.
BBVA to pay him directly, or I have to go to the bank to pay him directly. So I was like, now that you got their downsides, but at least your gas bill.
I was told someone this the other day. I get 3 gas bills a month. Only one of them is mine. Who do those other gas bills belong to? They're in other names. None of them are in my name. I get 3 gas bills a month. None of them are in my name. I have to figure out which one is the one I actually pay. And then I got to figure out how to pay that one bill. Are those other people getting their gas bills that are getting emailed to me? I don't know. I don't. Why are they getting emailed to my email address? I don't know. It's not easy. It's, you know what I mean? Like, those are the things where it's like, it's not easy. People aren't chasing me down to like lay a bed of roses by my feet, in front of my feet as I'm walking. It's not that life. But my cleaning lady's lovely, and she comes and she handles business once a week, and I do not pay her a lot of money in comparison to what I would pay in the US, right? Those are the ways in which my life is upgraded. But it's the people who expect that, like, being American, which around the world, being American generally isn't about who you are. It's about the idea of what's in your pockets, right? The idea that Americans have money when they go to the places they're traveling to, which a lot of it is a lie. But the idea that you're an American, and so people were going to like make your life so simple and easy, wackadoo. Wackadoo. I have another myth. Y'all ready? We may have already covered it
Okay.
within something else. But the idea that like Americans are rich and everybody else is poor. So that when you're coming, now this is kind of like the other side of the myth. Wherever you go, you're going to be a gentrifier, right? You're going to be like harming the local economy because you have more money than the people around you. Dee already told you she was a poor in her building. I'm a poor in my building. I don't have $100,000
more
car.
money than the people in this building.
I am a poor in my.
I do not.
I do not. I do not. But yeah, the idea that like, as an American, you are coming in with this pot of cash compared to people who are living with nothing is this stereotype that kind of flattens the conversation and turns the people in the country you're going to into a caricature. People are always talking about like how poor it is in Mexico.
Yeah.
I told you I have a poor side of my neighborhood. My poor side of my neighborhood ain't bad, right? It's still, folks own their own car, they drive, right? They own the houses, right? The rich side of my neighborhood is like stupendous, right? And so the idea that like it's a country full of poor people, and rich Americans are coming down. A lot of Americans are coming down on Social Security, right? Or historically, that's what has enabled them to live here. It's changing a little bit now, but historically, a lot of the people who moved here did not have a lot of money, right? And that's one of the reasons they moved here. So the idea that everyone coming down has a lot of money not only flattens it on the local side, but also on the foreign side, because the idea is, well, if you're a foreigner, you must be able to pay a lot for rent. So here's the number I wouldn't charge a local.
Yeah.
But this is the U number. If you don't get out of here, which is craziness. Every once in a while, like even I'm in San Miguel de Allende, and there's it's kind of a vacation. It's historically a vacation place for Mexicans. And now a lot more foreigners come here to live here and to vacation here. And there's a lot more boutiques now. But this is where Stephanie and I met in person in 2021. There's a lot more boutiques now than there were even 2-3 years ago. But when I go inside and I see those prices, I'm like, even in Mexico City, I don't see numbers like this. Like, unless I'm going into like the boot, and these are like, I'm pretty sure you got this from China. Like, I'm just, there's nothing about it that like indicates from like the quality, the craftsmanship, the materials, nothing about this indicates it was made in Mexico. Nothing. This looks like you unpacked it in a box of that cellophane wrap in the back. And it's this crazy price now because you think that the foreigners will just pay anything for anything. And I mean, they're in business, so maybe they will, but don't do that. Don't do that. It's crazy.
How much effort or like how much thought should we give into the gentrification conversation though?
I think it deserves effort. It deserves thought. You don't want to come in. Okay. What I would say is there's a very good chance if you move abroad, you are on your own gentrifying in some way, adding to gentrification. But an American moving abroad isn't automatically a gentrifier. Good chance you are, right? There's also a good chance that it's not your fault.
Yeah.
Right? Because if the rent prices that you're being told, seen, that are being shown to you are all up here while all the locals are seeing rent prices up here, like here, or they've all been raised because they think foreigners are coming in. Like the landlords are doing that. The foreigners didn't walk in here and say like, I think rent should go up by 30 or 40%. The landlords see an opportunity, right? Or what they think is an opportunity because they think all foreigners are rich. And now they've raised the rent. Yes, you're adding to it, but you didn't necessarily do it, right? You didn't necessarily, and a lot of times the conversation is flattened in the sense that like the foreigners have caused gentrification. We don't, like in Mexico City, it's very rare for foreigners to own any property, right? And so the people we're renting from are Mexicans. So the Mexicans are causing the gentrification. Like the rich Mexicans who are property owners are causing the gentrification. But like it takes the two to tango. But the first step was someone raising the rent, right? You raised the rent because you thought you were going to pay more. But
I think that's an important part of that conversation is that people discuss it in a very flattened context when it is way too complex for that. And I like what you said, Roshida, about being a foreigner moving somewhere else doesn't automatically make you a gentrifier, but chances are good. And that I think puts the responsibility on you as someone moving abroad about, okay, how can I go about this so that there's the least amount of negative impact from my move? Steph, you've talked about this, I think recently on Instagram, this idea that people assume, okay, I'm moving to country X. I gotta buy a house. I need to buy a condo. I need to buy some property there. And, coming from the US where home ownership is considered to be like a step, that socially, economically mobile people make, that's how you show you've made it. That doesn't exactly play out the same way or have the same impact when you are a foreigner coming into another place. And that is something to be mindful of. And those are the kinds of conversations that happen in the Exodus Summit Facebook group. And that also happened, I think, at Exodus Summit as well. But this idea that, I don't know, particularly I find it irritating here in Mexico City because people will often, they say, oh, you live in Mexico City, and will parrot back to me something they heard off of some IG reel about gentrification. And I'm like, in a city the size of Houston, with a population more than twice the size of New York City. Okay, so let's think about that. There, I saw the number the other day, 1.6 million foreigners, Americans, in all of Mexico. Mexico has population of what, like 120 mil? In Mexico City, there are 22 million people. All 1.6 million of them are not here. So we're talking about tens of thousands of people. Maybe a couple 100,000 people. And you're telling me that that group of people is destroying? No.
No, and it really, like, it is most things, like the way people complain about gentrification now, we're totally a little off topic, but whatever. Or I'm about to be a little off topic, is interesting because people will say, like, this local quesadilla now has a menu in English, and this is a sign of gentrification. And I'm like, Abuela put her sign up in English because she wants more customers, or she's tired of people asking her questions she can understand. No one.
And the geography teacher in me is like, learning vocabulary. That's touristification, because it's catering to tourists.
Yes.
Just like making the salsas less spicy.
Yes.
You're doing that because Abuelita is trying to make them pesos.
Right. That's not that, but people say, like, oh, this is a sign of gentrification. This is a sign. Like, I saw something once that was like, look at all these, like, signs in buildings in, like, on the street, like buildings, businesses have these signs and they're in English. It's a sign of, like, the forced gentrification. And I'm like, I go to a Pilates place and a dental office that both have their names in English. In both businesses, not a single person speaks English. They are not trying to, like, it's not a forced gentrification issue, and they're not trying to attract foreigners who speak English. They're trying to attract fancy Mexicans. Like, that's what they're trying to attract. They're trying to attract Mexicans who are attracted to English, right? They're not, if they wanted English speaking customers, they would have an English speaking employee anywhere. Last time I went to the dental office, they were like, girl, there was one dentist here who spoke English, but she's gone. You sure you want to come? Like, they don't even want me. Like, they were trying to talk me out of being a customer. This is not a sign of gentrification, right? But when you flatten the discussion and when you're looking for the signs, they're really easy to find. And that's why it's just
that is
about people who aren't living in the place, like someone who's been there for a month now being an expert, or like speaking on gentrification. And it's like, you're passing through and you'll be gone in months. Like, let the people who've been here for years and have seen how things change, who know that, like, no one, yes, that sign is in English, but not a single person inside speaks English, right? Like, they're not doing what you think they're doing. The fact that there's a menu in English is not about the locals. There's so many foreigners now that she had to put up the sign. No, she wants the money. And so she put up the sign. That's not, like, that's definitely it takes two to tango kind of situation. And often the activity of the locals is left out of these conversations, right? Like, how Abuela putting up a sign is a look what the foreigners made her do, as opposed to she is a woman who runs a business and made a decision, right? So yes, pay attention, but yeah.
And that the use of English, when I'm walking someplace and I see English, I am questioning, well, okay, why are they using English here? Because I'm looking around at the neighborhood and I know the demographics of it. And I'm like, oh, they're trying to appear fancy. They're trying to attract, like, there are certain things, like shopping at Costco is a flex if you're a local, in a way that it's not when you're shopping there in the United States. And those kinds of things get left out of the conversation. I think I saw some questions about renting versus buying, kind of sort of related to this particular myth. I can tell you that I love being a renter. I love that when something doesn't work, I get to WhatsApp my landlord and he magically makes it right. If I owned, guess whose problems those would be? Mine. Am I paying more in rent than if I owned? I think it is very easy for US Americans to make that assumption because they have no idea how expensive real estate can be in a place like Mexico City. When I think about, and I'm saying expensive, when I think about what people make on average, and I think about what units in this building probably sold for when they were constructed, that's how I know I'm one of the brokest people in this building because the majority of my neighbors own their unit. And typically, mortgages are not a thing. So these people were sitting on that cash and then some. My bought this place that I know is expensive as an investment property. He never intended to live here. So we always joke, he's probably money than all these people who live in this building.
Mm-hmm.
And I am happy being his renter
Mm-hmm.
because he handles things. We have a problem with somebody, we let him know, it gets fixed.
Mm-hmm. So Dara touched on something for a minute, but I think there's also, I don't think I would buy a property in any city without living there probably at least 2 years first. Right? Like I now know after living here for years, I now know what parts of the city. I wouldn't buy property in Mexico City to begin with. I'm playing that game. But I also know that like if I was going to, what parts of the city I would buy it in and what parts I wouldn't. And that's not just what the neighborhood's like. It's also what the local governments are like. It's like what the land is doing. We live on a lake, right? It's where the earthquakes are. It's where they're building things. Those are all things that you don't find out within a few months. And when I do see people, what I see as far as like foreigners buying real estate, I'm speaking specifically about Mexico City here. I see it in other places as well, but I'm going to speak specifically in Mexico City. I see people who like the idea. They bring in that foreign idea of like, if I'm going to be here, I must own property. And then they start the property search and then they stop the property search, right? Stop it. We saw a woman earlier who bought a loft condo, not even a 1-bedroom, a loft a couple years ago for over $300,000. Baby, you ain't got walls. You could buy that in almost any city. I mean, maybe not like New York, right? But like a loft with no walls in Mexico. And this is something I know because I live here. It's really easy once you can find a place and the price makes sense to you and you have done your due diligence. You can buy a place. You're not going to sell it. Good luck. God bless it. You're not going to. You can buy property here. You can't sell property here. So now what? When you want out? Because for the difference, and this is part of it too, of like knowing where you are. In Mexico, a lot of people buy property as a way to park money that's not in the bank. It's that hidden cash, right? Like, I have a pot of gold. I'm going to buy a property. And so those properties, they might like fake try to sell them on the market for like years, but they don't need to because you don't think that's their only pot of cash, do you? They got gold all over the place, right? And so they're in no rush to sell. And so you're competing with so many other properties that are on the market that are like, if we sell, we sell. If we don't, we don't. So they're not going to lower their price. So now you got to lower yours, right? To compete with them. Properties here do not move the way you can buy it, can't sell it.
I have another, I think it's a myth. Y'all can tell me if you think it's a myth. In order to move abroad, I need to have a remote job.
Why y'all want jobs so bad? Okay, that's all I have. You're muted, babe.
I wouldn't have thought of that as a myth because I think people always think in order to move abroad, I need to get a job in a new country. I would like to see more people moving in the remote job direction. You think too many people are focusing on remote jobs instead of what, Adelia?
I think their idea of a remote job is too narrow, that they are looking specifically for income from a single job with a single employer. And that is the only way that they can go. And I think it applies same way to the folks who think I have to find a job in the country. I think maybe my myth is broader. It is I must have a quote unquote job. And that kind of like tunnel vision and narrow definition, I think hinders them significantly. What you're saying is, I need some income. But by narrowing yourself to it must be a job, you're eliminating a lot of things. And I know y'all were talking about, I've spoken at almost every Exodus summit. I think Liberia Jones probably has spoken literally at everyone. I know I didn't speak at the last one, but she probably has spoken at every one. She's going to be back this year talking about finding remote work, not a remote job necessarily, because there are a lot of ways that you can earn money remotely, and it doesn't have to be in the confines of a quote unquote job.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a myth.
Good. Yeah, we're super attached to. We bought into the idea that a job means security, even though you ain't got no job security unless you work for. There are people who don't. Teachers, I think, have experienced security in the U.S. And certain government employees, but most people have not experienced job security. But they think an actual one job is the most secure path. When listen, you have no say, you have no control over what happens to you in that job, and being able to make money in some other ways it does feel more secure. You do feel like you've got more options and more like, I don't want to say plan Bs because they're all plan A, right? But you've got more rivers. You've got a way to make rivers of money flow to you that you don't have when you have one traditional job. So I'm with you. The idea that one traditional job is the way to move abroad, that's a myth. That's a myth. Because listen, me and Adele, we ain't got no job.
And don't really want a job. A steady paycheck, yes. A job, not so much.
That's right. That's right. So we've seen people do it in other ways. Investment income is income. Pension is income. Money that you make from like online things. We do coaching online. That's income. Yeah, without having a traditional job, one job or to rely on for money.
And I think if you struggle with letting go of that, it must be a job. Or okay, let me flip that around and say it in a more positive, affirming kind of way. If you can open your mind to the idea of it not being a traditional job, that income can come from a variety of sources, and having multiple sources, that's something. Nobody frowns about having multiple sources of income. That sounds like a cool thing. But you say something about, well, she doesn't have one job, she's got like four. People turn their nose up at that. Like she has to have four jobs to make ends meet. It's that construct of a job. So if you can free yourself from that construct, you're also opening your mind up to like so many other possibilities that can be available to you when you live abroad, and the entire move abroad, take a sabbatical hemisphere world, whatever you want to say.
Absolutely. That's right. Rashida's typing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, we got a good myth there. So, friends, if any of you think the only path for you to move abroad is one traditional job, whether that's online, like a remote job, or a job in a new country, I hope that you are active and like involved in some places where some people have moved abroad or are moving abroad, and you can see that that's not the only way to do things. You know us.
Mhm.
You know that's not how we're doing things. Yeah, that's good. It all comes down to the number, right? It all comes back to, you know, how much money you're going to need to be in this new place you want to go. If you don't know that number, you're going to be freaked out, and you're going to be thinking, I need to get a job in that country, even though, listen, you don't want to work in it. You don't want to work here. I don't know what the minimum wage here is in Costa Rica, but I know I got a housekeeper for 4 hours for $25 US, right? You don't want a job in that country. You want income. Some of you, what we know about Black women is some of y'all got the income, right? You just have to decide that this is going to be used for this thing instead of what you originally said. We talked about that already.
So like this, does income from renting out a property count? Absolutely. It is income. And not just in the sense of it's income and you have money. There are tons of visas that they're often referred to as rentista visas that count that as income when qualifying for the legal right to be in a country.
That's right.
And that is something y'all are going to talk about at the summit, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I believe so.
Thank you, Adelia.
Do you know more about that, Stephanie?
You do. You do. Share with the people.
I am talking about visas, and mostly visas, because we can talk a little bit about citizenship. You don't need it, right? Like, I personally think additional citizenships tend to be overrated. We give them too much credit, right? Like, yes, there's some value there, but a lot of times you don't need to go out of your way to do that. You can just get a visa and be in another country and be all right. So we're talking about visas and what, like, staying in other countries and figuring out how you can stay there long term, what you need to do, and then the different visas in some of the places around the world, and maybe based on like what resources you have, where are some good places to look at with their visas. So I'm excited about that talk because I think it'll give you some ideas of places to relocate to stay long term.
We've mentioned today that there are some countries that, like, why would a country be more eager to bring you in than it would be to, you know, take care of its own people? There are countries that are recruiting people to move there, right? They have like a variety of ways for you to be there legally, and so you're going to learn about that. You're going to learn about Rashida's going to teach you some like entry options that you might not know about, some ways that you can get somewhere and stay somewhere for a while that you may not know are options for you or that are like that you qualify for. Yeah, so that's good. We're gonna get you. Listen, come to Exodus Summit 2024. What you're gonna learn is the thing that you thought was a reason that this may not work out for you probably is not a reason that it may not work out for you. It's probably just some questions you need to answer, right? A problem that you need to solve, but not I can't move abroad because. That because part is probably something that we hopefully is something that we're addressing in Exodus Summit 2024. Use Adelia's link, go over there. You can see the sessions, the calendar is there. You can see what we're addressing, what we're talking about. And if your thing is there, your because shows up when you go to the link that Adelia's dropping. If your because is there, we hope that you'll come to the summit so that you can learn, right? So that instead of keeping that as a because, here's a reason I can't do it. Instead, you'll be like, oh, here's some solutions to that. Here's how I'm going to put my plan together. And then boom, you can be gone, be out, and look as good as we do at 144.
So are there any more myths, move abroad myths that you can think of? Because I think we've hit pretty much everyone that was on my list.
Real quick, and a second. The other side of it costs $200 to live there is it takes $1 million to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Like it cannot be done unless you have, we talked about the math earlier, but the assumption that like you need a bucket of cash to do it is one that I think is important. And we hear a lot, and I think people do a good job of like addressing it. But if that is something, if it's something you're holding on to, there's nothing people can say, right? Like I can tell you how much it costs. It does not cost $1 million, right? But until you experience it yourself, it's really hard to accept.
I think some of that comes from, I went on vacation there and the vacation cost me this much for a week, so it must cost 4 times that for a month. I think some of it is just like faulty reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Dahlia's going to teach you how to figure out the numbers.
And I think this idea, like you mentioned when we first started, Roshida, that Asia literally had 0 saved up. She had things saved up. I think this idea that like, oh, you've either had to have saved a lot of money or you have to currently make a significant amount of money. There are ways you can go abroad if neither of those are true. I was a high school teacher for 19 years, making peanuts and ice water. That is what they paid me. And yet, here I am in Mexico with permanent residency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I moved to several countries, 3 different countries, where how much money I had did not matter because I was able to qualify for a visa in another way. So I think the important thing here is not to just stop there and make that assumption and assume. I think that's the biggest issue.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Get some information, right? Get some real info instead of what you're going to make up in your mind is never going to be right, right? Because you don't have the information. Get yourself information. Get in a position to learn from people who have already done it.
I think that's it. Get yourself some information. And the reality is, and I said this earlier, if you were doing this 10 years ago, getting access to that information, getting able to talk to folks who look like you, who have done those things, that was very, very difficult to do. But at the summit, you've got 3.5, 4 days where it's just going to be woman after woman after woman who is doing these things, who has done these things, who is answering those questions, who is providing that information. And I would say, because Dee just made this comment about requirements, they change, they go up, they get more difficult. So this is, if you want to get out now, ASAP, in the near future, you definitely want to be at Exodus Summit next month, in a couple weeks, in a few days.
Couple weeks, girl.
Mm-hmm.
Couple weeks.
I have to say that because time, I never know when it is on a given day. So I have to remind myself, oh, that's in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You don't know what you could what could be the light switch that would turn on for you. So we hope that you'll be there. Use Adelia's link, register for Exodus Summit. We hope that you'll be there. And then join us in the community, the Facebook community. We're already, I don't know, hundreds of success stories in, 1,000, hundreds at least, hundreds and hundreds of success stories in. So come on and join us.
Mhm.
Absolutely. My link is in the description of this video because I don't know if you're watching the replay. Hello. Glad you tuned in. I don't know if the chat is going to populate on the replay, but the link to get tickets, my link is in the chat, so please use that. And thank you, ladies. I know you've got a lot going on with this being Exodus Summit season, but thank you for stopping by the channel to have this conversation. And to everybody else, y'all want to be here on Monday. If you are the mother of children, if you are somebody interested in moving to Europe, and you're trying to figure out how to make that work, you want to be here on Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern, which is not the normal time I go live, but trying to accommodate my guest who will be in Germany. She just moved there with her 3 sons, all under, maybe she's got 4 kids. I might have that wrong, but a bunch of kids, all under age 18. So I hope y'all can join me then. But until then, bye everybody.